Good evening. All right. Hi, Jim. All right, I'd like to call the annual district budget meeting to order. Lisa, are you here? Lisa's not here, so I'll call attendance. I am here. Alan? Not here. John? Here. Greg? Here. Michelle?
Here.
Jim?
Here.
Stephanie?
Here.
Lisa's not here. Michael?
Here.
Julie?
Here.
Jennifer?
Here.
Peter?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. So do I have a nomination for a moderator to conduct this meeting?
I'd like to nominate Jim McDonough.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Unanimous? Yeah, what a surprise.
Honored.
Sir, thank you.
So I'd like to give notice of the annual district budget meeting. The notice is hereby given to all those entitled to vote in town meetings in the towns of Bridgewater, Roxbury, and Washington, that a district meeting will be held on Monday, May 6, 2019, at 7 o'clock p.m. It's 1900 to you, sailor, at Chippewa Valley School, 159 South Street, Washington, Connecticut, to present for approval the annual budget for the year 2019-2020, prepared by the Regional Board of Education for Chippewa Valley Regional School District 12, copies of which are on file with the respective town clerks of the district and at the central office of the Board of Education, Chippewa Valley Regional School District 12, Bridgewater, Roxbury, Washington, by Anthony Amato, Chairman, Board of Education, Washington Depot, Connecticut, 06794. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, to present the budget.
Thank you. So the budget meeting this evening will be is adjourned, is to be considered adjourned until the following day, Tuesday, May 7, 2019, until the polls open in each of the 3 member towns for the purpose of voting the question. The meeting shall be considered as adjourned following the close of the polls in the 3 member towns and announcements made of the results of the voting the question. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. This motion is here, this meeting is hereby adjourned.
Anthony, could I make a motion to include some more discussion
On what?
on this meeting? The presentation to the public? Budget?
Excuse me, Jim?
I think he's got the right to have discussion.
In the next meeting or in this meeting?
This meeting.
Go ahead.
Okay. I received several phone calls over the past weekend concerning
Yeah.
I received several phone calls over this past weekend concerning the flyer and the letters and the emails that were sent out. And I know some of it was not using Region 12 money, but the flyer did. And there's a question, there's 2 questions that they asked me. How is this $770,308 going to be returned, and what is the guarantee? And secondly, was this, and it was mentioned in the letter to the Waterbury Republican, Connecticut law prohibits creating a flyer paid for with public money that includes information regarding anticipated income. On the flyer, the anticipated revenue of, is an anticipated revenue of $770,308. So can this referendum be challenged? The result of this referendum be challenged based on the possibility that, Connecticut law prohibits the information on this flyer?
So I'm going to give Megan the floor because
And
I understand
I
it.
do know that the board lawyers looked at it.
Okay, yeah. So
And so when we did put the flyer by, and there were things that they did take out. So the percentage was what they had taken out. But they did say that because it's at the approximate value, it was a statement of fact. They did permit the flyer as it is presented before you.
But will the Connecticut, election law folks agree?
It's really an unanswerable question. Can it be challenged? Maybe it can. If so, what? Are we going to stop the referendum tomorrow? I mean, hopefully it won't be challenged. But John, I don't know what you expect from us. I mean, what if the answer to the question, and I don't think anybody is saying this, what if the answer to your question is yes, it can be challenged? Now what? Do we cancel the referendum tomorrow? I mean, I think the superintendent has done the best she can. She's got advice from council. We don't believe, I assume we believe that if it's challenged, the challenge won't prevail. We go forward.
Greg?
Yeah, John, my understanding is that the referendum itself can't be challenged. The only thing someone could do if they felt that violated the requirements would be to bring a complaint to the State Elections Enforcement Commission, or is it the Freedom of Information Commission?
I think it's election enforcement.
Yeah, I think it's Elections Enforcement. Yeah, and so you bring it to Elections Enforcement. Elections Enforcement could do one of several things. They could say this is a mistake. Don't go forth and sin no more. They could issue fines against the board. The fines would probably be in the amount of the cost of the piece of literature, which the board would then pay. So now it would have been paid for twice. It completely defeats the purpose that anyone would have in saying this money shouldn't have been properly spent, because now it's been spent and you pay a fine to the State Elections Enforcement Commission of the amount that you spent on the publication. So anyone that's concerned about budgetary proceedings, it would be doubling the cost. And so there really isn't a lot of things that can be done nothing can be done to overturn the referendum. I don't believe they would do that. I don't think they can do that. So I think the only thing they really could do would be to issue a fine, and that's pretty much it. Also, it's been obtained on the advice of counsel, and that might mitigate, even if they felt that it was improper, it might militate against even imposing a fine, because it's not like the board went out there and just took a flyer on it. They did what they were supposed to do by law, and it was submitted to council by the secretary. So,
Well, how about my second question? What is the guarantee that $770,308 is going to be returned to basically the taxpayers?
Yeah, go.
We did do a conservative estimate. So we utilized the same tuition and number that was utilized in last year's budget, the $340,116. And the reason we kept that constant, and even with that number, we gave money back to the towns. So we continue to use a conservative estimate because we do not want to ever have to go back to our towns to say, we ran out of money. So we utilized that. We also then took the equation that we have for calculating the agri-science tuition in order to make certain, again, that we took all of the information we had, we made our projections, and we utilized real numbers based on what we had in front of us. So that's how we came to the numbers. As far as guarantees, there aren't, but to say to you, this is what we have, it's approximate. I can tell you today, I have more tuition in applications than I did last year that I still have to, and to know that monies were returned to the town. So everything we did was to keep conservative estimates. It is our goal, it is everything we are doing to make certain that we are being fiscally responsible.
I just wanted to say, having worked on the letter, or written the letter, I see the confusion and I feel bad about that. We talked about the flyer in the Finance Committee. We knew that the lawyer said we were allowed to put anticipated income on the flyer, but we were not allowed to demonstrate the effect on the budget ask and talk about the percentage. So while we could say anticipated income, we couldn't take it to the flyer. We couldn't say what the effect of that anticipated income was on the budget request. So that was the point of the letter, and it was complicated to try to explain the nuance of that in 250 words. So I can see where there's confusion, but I feel confident that the flyer is okay because it says anticipated revenue. It does not say guaranteed revenue. And it was passed through the lawyer who did not allow the flyer to take that anticipated revenue to the next layer of information. So that was the point of the letter, was to do the math for people who didn't know what the full request was and how the 770,000 would affect the request.
Okay. Well, lastly, out of that 770,308, approximately 218,000 is the projected revenue from the state of Connecticut operations grant. And in conversations with a person at that department, he informed me that that money is used to offset, exactly as it states, the operation of the agri-science program. How we can project that that money is going back to the towns, I know indirectly it probably is because it would offset the budget, but to state that that money is going to be returned to the towns in a lump sum is kind of misleading. So I don't know. And again, I'm not the only one. I had several calls and several emails concerning these issues. So
Alan?
I think it's better if we all remember, and it'll help when you get these calls and emails, to let everyone know that very little is ever actually returned to the towns. And that's not the point. The point is that the budget is offset, and that's what the promise is, and that's what any kind of anything that could be termed as revenue is, because, of course, we're not allowed to have any revenue except for state income and tuition in, obviously, taxpayers. What's really only allowed is our taxpayer budgeted income, and that's why we have that net and that gross. And we have to pass the gross, but our actual net expense is a different number, and the difference is the offsets, whether it's from the state, whether it's from sending schools, or whether it's from parents tuitioning in. So I think the confusion is and I was confused by this too a couple of years ago, this concept that we kind of bandy about of money being returned to the taxpayers. It really literally isn't until we get to a surplus. If there is a surplus, if we've played our cards right at the end of the year. And that's a much smaller number than all of these other revenue concepts that we have, because those numbers, that larger number goes to offset the budget, which means the taxpayers don't pay as much in their property taxes. So that would be a way to start trying to offset some of the complaints you get when people are trying to, I don't think there's any ill will. There's just confusion, and if people, follow that to the utmost, when people are confused, they start to get suspicious and they start to get a little bit antsy that we're not telling the truth. So I think offsetting that right away will probably really help when people talk to you like that.
Jim?
I think that when the towns aren't billed as much, so whether it's a check that comes in, that's what we're constantly going against, and that's what Nicole plans for. And so to say you're right, it's not always a physical check. Sometimes it's that the bills that are being, the monies that are being sought out by the towns are not as much due to the money that comes in.
Okay. The meeting, thank you, John. The meeting remains adjourned until, just to make sure we're clear, we're still adjourned until the conclusion of the vote tomorrow, as described earlier.